Ladies and gents, we're back with the Lighthouse Podcast alongside my co-host and good friend Alex Camargo. We are here to talk about personal growth today. We have our guest speaker of the day, attorney Steve Demoura. Even though he is a real estate attorney, we are going to stay a little bit away from real estate today. We'll talk about it a little bit. But without further ado, let me introduce him. Steve Demoura, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming by today. He does have his own podcast, the Boa Podcast. Living and Breathing is their logo over there. And we appreciate you in the building today, my brother. We have a lot of good stuff to talk about. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you first of all, thank you both for having me on. And it's a little strange being here on this side of the table and not having the mic in front of me and asking the questions. So I'm kind of in the hot seat, but I do appreciate the invite to talk about all things life. As you said earlier, I am a host of the Boa Life Podcast alongside my co-host, Nick Colhay. We love the experience of having the podcast, and similarly, I love being on podcasts. I have to give you guys a special shout out and thank you, because when I first started my podcast, I was in another room in this building, and you guys gave me the opportunity to use your equipment, use your space, and little by little we've grown. We're in another area that's, suits our needs better because of our videographer, and that's where he is, or else we'd probably still be here because it's a great facility, a great environment to have great conversations.
Yeah, you just dumped us.
I wouldn't dream of doing that.
Yeah. We couldn't catch up. I mean, the podcast blew up, and then, we
got an extra 2 views. It blew up. No, it's going to be nice to have a conversation. And I'm sure, being that we're constantly working with each other in real estate, I'm sure we'll stumble onto that topic. But it's great to have a personal discussion and talk about, personal development, and I'm sure we'll talk about all things life. And I love the title of your podcast, The Lighthouse, a beacon, a directional beacon, like there is a big building, telling you where to go. I mean, you can really do that. I'm sure you're really doing that and focusing that in real estate, but you can broaden your horizons and talk about other stuff like we're doing today. So thank you both for having me on. It's really a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. We can start with direction, right? Since we're going to talk about personal growth, it doesn't really matter the speed in which you grow, but the direction, right? Direction matters more than speed. And I think we can start with that. You've been able to, we'll talk a little about your early life, but you're, young kid, soccer dreams, and you played a lot of soccer in your life, and then you've had all the support from your family to get into this journey of being an attorney. And of course, now you're that support system for your own family and your kids, and guide them into a direction. But the one constant has been direction. Talk to us about that. I mean, how do you keep yourself following a path, and how do you stay true to that path?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I completely, wholeheartedly agree with you that, direction is more important than pace. And in golf, it's probably the opposite, but in life, I definitely agree with that. And some may disagree with us. Some people achieve successes, and again, we can define success in a lot of different ways, and there's different avenues in which we can reach success. But I think for me personally, the most important thing was I always had goals, I had dreams, and I've always been striving to do that, to reach and accomplish the goals and the dreams that I set for myself. And I always thought it was important to aim high and aim far, so that destination is a long way away, I think it's important along the way to be grateful for where you are, to give thanks for all the accomplishments you've achieved, but to keep setting lofty goals for yourself, or even from the start, having little goals that you can achieve, but having this big picture in mind. And my big picture, since I was a kid, was always, believe it or not, to have a family. That was what I was experiencing in life. I was very fortunate to have a mother and father who I adore, who I didn't think I was going to get emotional, but here I am getting emotional, who are people that I looked up to, who are my heroes, and kind of wanted to grow up to just be, if I could be a little bit like them, then I'd be happy. Yeah. So kind of what I want for my kids, to grow up to be good people, have integrity, to accomplish a lot for themselves and for society as a whole. And these are kind of the principles I live by, to be a good person, to help other people, to try to be a beacon of light for my kids, for my friends, and to keep pressing forward and achieving the goals I've set out. But some may say the goal I set out for myself was an easy one, just have a family, and maybe it was. And as I got older and I developed as a human being, I realized I probably picked the hardest thing to want and be good at, because it's a humbling endeavor. I have successes. I've had successes in sports and in business. I've been fortunate enough to do well in competitive environment. I always try to strive to be the best I can in what I'm doing. And sometimes that can be counterproductive as a father and as a husband. And I constantly try to reflect on the things that I've done. And, sometimes my disappointments are I'm not living up to the standards and to the objectives that I have to be a father and a husband. And I'm just trying to be better. But the one thing I admire about myself, because I think everybody should have, something that they appreciate in themselves and look at that and be proud of that, is that I don't give up. I'll fail, but I'll get up and I'll keep going and trying to be the best that I can be in the things that I'm doing, and I'm doing that. I'm living that, and then stay grounded and staying humble, because with success, sometimes success can change you. So I try to stay humble and even in sometimes give yourself a pat in the back, but keep on trying to improve and do better. And in some aspects of my life, I've been doing that. And in others, I haven't, but I'll continue to work to get good at all the things I could be good at.
How important to you is your circle of friends to support your goals, like how to make you accountable, and like how does that, or are you self-driven? You can do, like, because a lot of people can do it on their own, like they don't need anybody else to be their accountability partners and all that, but most of us in a way or another do. How are you? Are you self-driven, or do you? And either way is fine, of course, right? But
I would say I have a little of both, but I don't fool myself. I think that in life, if first of all, you try to surround yourself with the type of people you want to be like, because you're going to end up being like the people you surround yourself with. But I believe in reciprocity, and I believe that you need to give, you need to receive, and you need to be a part of a bigger circle. And without having friendship and partners, whether it be in business or in life, the person you choose to raise a family with, the people you choose to go into business with or have fun with, I think that's important. I mean, I think I've chosen wisely. I mean, I hang out with you two on professional and business levels, so I think I'm making good choices, and I have family members and friends that I choose to spend my time with and try to learn from, uncles. I'm always looking for a blueprint for success, right? So, I want all the right ingredients. I want to use that recipe properly. And when you don't have the right ingredients, it's a recipe for disaster. So I think that in life, you are who you surround yourself with, and you need people. You need people, even people you're not necessarily surrounding yourself with, but even in business or in life in general or fitness. You have to make, good relationships with people. They're going to hold you accountable. They're going to show you the way. They're going to motivate you. People that you can admire. I mean, my co-host in my podcast is someone who inspired me to push towards a podcast, because I saw him undertake this challenge, and he put his video. I mean, I saw him personally, and then I saw his video on Facebook or YouTube. I don't remember where it was posted, and he inspired me. It's like someone that's doing something that I think is impossible, but it inspired me to do things. I think very often we know what we want to do. We just lack sometimes the courage or the initiative to just do it. You and I talked about briefly before the podcast started about having guests on and wanting to build a body of work so we can bring in people to our podcast and have excellent, awesome conversations. And I think sometimes we probably you overthink it, because sometimes just a phone call. I mean, I think that a lot of people, myself included, want to help other people. We've had a little taste of success, and we want to share that. I mean, there are people that, don't want to give away the secrets. I'm not one of them, and I don't think a majority of people are. You guys certainly aren't, because you're here. Now, we talk about this in our podcast. Selfless and selfish sometimes are one and the same, right? People can look at our podcast and say, oh, we're doing it because we like the spotlight, or we're trying to improve our business. And so what? Don't feel guilty about that, But at the same time, we're doing positive things, and we're doing it for the right reasons. So I think that we're all in this together. And there's plenty of times in our lives where you're like, wow, you feel connected in ways and realize, wow, you really are connected to everyone. So I think what you put out there, you get back. So I think there's nothing more important than having a community that is intertwined, and you're doing stuff for them, they're doing stuff for you in every facet of life. But with that being said, I do think that to be successful in any area of competence or in life in general, that you have to be self-motivated and determined to do certain things, because no one's going to push you to do certain things. They're going to help you, and they're going to be there to help you. But if you don't, you could want to help me go run every day at the track, but if I don't show up the track, you can't help me run.
The old saying, you could lead the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink.
So there's accountability. There's action that you need to take, and sometimes that's where I have some missteps where I know what I got to do, I know what I have to do, just I don't take the initiative to do it. And sometimes you need others to motivate you, push you, show you the light. And I think half the time I'm doing these conversations, whether it be on the other side of the mic or on this side like I am today, I always, if not in search of answers, just a little motivation. Like, what to do, just do it. Keep talking about it, but action. It's all about action. So, and with help or on your own, without action, nothing's going to get done.
Right. Yeah. And just going back a little bit, I want to touch on a few things that you just said, Steve. The conversation that we were having prior to the cameras on, and that was really inspiring to me, because when we were kind of like playing around with you, saying, "Oh, Steve, big shot, attorney, and almost a famous soccer player because of how good you were," and I want to go into that a little bit. But the fact that when you said we're talking about the property where you live now and your neighborhood and everything, and those are things that your father and yourself, you guys fought for that. But you're like, oh, my father grew up as, probably in more poor than you guys grew up. And I looked at you and I was like, I doubt that, because of the way that I grew up in Brazil,
Right.
So I'm 1 out of 5. And my mom didn't work. It was just him. So it was like the 5 of us, 1 bathroom, and
with 5 kids at home, she worked.
Oh yeah. My mom didn't work outside, but she had 5 full-time jobs in the house, which children are a full plate. And I'm sorry for doubting what your dad went through without knowing, because that was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, I don't believe that, because I know what I went through. That's why I usually like to say, this is the country of opportunities. If you're not doing well in this country, it's because maybe you're missing out the opportunities. There's plenty of opportunities like that. But if you grew up in a third world country like I did, it's just it's hard. But anyway, when you said that he grew up without electricity and there was no bathroom there, and I was like, wow, that is those circumstances were worse than my circumstances as growing up. So and him fighting, to come over here to give you a better life, and then you coming up, investing your time into soccer, and then you decided to be a lawyer afterwards. I know, and I want you to touch on that a little bit about the whole soccer thing. Every time I talk to somebody in town about you, like, oh, that he used to be an extremely good soccer player. Yeah, so those things are you know, and one of the reasons why we wanted to keep this podcast, even though, you know, there's plenty to talk about real estate. You know, you're an attorney that we work with all the time. We're realtors and everything like that. But inspired by your podcasts and your life experiences, we're like, let's just talk about life. Let's talk about the things that we can, you know, inspire other people. And the whole thing about the podcast is like, you never know who's going to be listening to this and be like, wow, that, you know, I could do the same thing. You know, I'll give you an example. The whole thing about other people being like, oh, you just want the spotlight, whatever the case may be. Those are people that aren't doing anything with their lives, and they have to say something about what other people are doing. And that's part of the recipe, the haters and all of that. But people, like, there's this couple I think they're out of Georgia, and they talk about marriage and how do they do and the things that they work on and everything like that. My wife watched them all the time, and she really relates to that, to the girl of like the things, and it's been helping her tremendously because of their podcast. You know, they have no idea who she is, but you know, I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to the stuff that you guys talk about, like I was listening a little bit to, I don't know, there was a writer that you guys interviewed the other day, right? Yeah.
This book won't make you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This book won't make you happy. And I was listening to a small clip. I think you or Nick put it on, and I was like, wow, I want to watch that whole episode because this girl knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, fantastic.
And that's inspirational right there. Yeah. So with all of that, to go back and say, to be an attorney, soccer player, when did you decide that you didn't want to take that professional career as an athlete and go into
I gotta jump in on this real quick. The word on the street is not that he was a great soccer player. It was a very competitive soccer player. There's a difference there.
Oh, I think you're making this here.
There's a difference there.
So not only was I competitive, but I was pretty good. But it's funny how we make assumptions, right? You see me now, and it's like, I was 100 pounds ago and many years ago, but with anything, work, right? Fundamentally, from the beginning, my dad was motivated. He's a fanatic about soccer, loved it, and I had this similar passion for the sport, and I put the work in. Woke up every day. You know, we had a plan, we had a strategy, right? A roadmap for how I was going to achieve success in soccer, and it was through hard work, fitness, how I ate, drills. My dad undertook, you know, spending money and a lot of time to make sure I was on the right teams and all that. So there was a lot that went into my success as a soccer player, and I don't regret any of the time I spent, because it was a lot of my childhood was spent training and doing that. I was able to play Division I and Division I soccer at the University of Rhode Island, where I was very successful. I think to this day I'm probably still one of the top 20 scorers in terms of like assist points. And in my local high school in Bethel, where I still reside, I don't want to toot my own horn, but leading goal scorer, Hall of Fame. Like, I had accolades that I'm very proud of, and I can't wait for one day my kids to walk to the gym and see my plaque up there, because a lot of blood, sweat, tears, a lot of time with my dad, and a lot of effort to do those things. When I had graduated from college, I had an opportunity to progress, to potentially go professional. Now, I don't know if people know the history of soccer in this country. It's still not great in this country, but it's starting to become a sport that would, rival at some point baseball and basketball, hockey, in terms of salaries.
Yeah.
But when I had graduated, the money wasn't there yet. I mean, they would take international players in and make some money, but from domestic players, it wasn't really, to be worth the risk of going to athletics, I think, and I would say that to my kids, depending on what sport, if they even had the chance, the risk reward has to be there, like the money has to be there. So for me to do that, I would have had to go on to Portugal, potentially. A lot of Brazilian, players end up in Portugal, Europe, Italy, wherever, where there's more money. And it was just a lifestyle change that I didn't think I could bridge. I loved the sport. I had passion for it. I wanted to maybe see what I was, able to achieve at the next level. But when it was all said and done, I thought, maybe it's time for my dream to end. So we've talked about this in the past. You have goals and dreams, and then sometimes you got to segue, right? You got to pivot somewhere else. I had a passion, but I also had, like I said, I was lucky in a sense that my number one passion was always a family. So I was always with, my head in the game to what could put me in a good position later on to provide for my family and to have a family. And I thought at that point, staying here, and going the route I had always done well in school, so I was always interested in law. As a matter of fact, when I was younger, my mother and we would be in a car. My dad would be driving up to Hartford to go play soccer, and we would debate or pretend we were in court. So I always had the passion to do that. So I was lucky in a sense, because I think some people, even some adults, don't never really know what they want to do. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, so that guided me and helped me. But it wasn't as hard of a transition as I thought it was going to be. I know a lot of athletes have a tough time transitioning to doing other things, and I can empathize with that. I sympathize with that. But for me, it wasn't that bad of a transition, and it went from me before. I don't ever jump, just jump into something. So what I did was I started at a law firm, right? And then as I should have been smart enough to run away, but I think I could do this. So then I went to law school after a year of working at a firm. And then when I graduated from law school, I ended up working at the actual firm that I had been in prior to law school at Penny Payne. It was a very big firm in Danbury at the time, had a lot of institutional work. Stayed with them for a while till I went on my own, as you guys know, in 2013. And I, obviously grew my practice to an area where I'm very proud of. I'm very happy with where I am. It came with a lot of sacrifice, hard work. In the beginning, it was difficult. I remember when I first went on my own, I had just had a baby. My first son, Maxwell, had been born in 2012 in December, and I'm starting a new firm, and I'm wondering, am I going to be able to pay bills? And I mean, that's where I was. It was a struggle. My wife was teaching at the time, so we had, thankfully that to help us. And little by little, I built a practice that I'm now very proud of, and maybe have some other things in store for the future. It's a journey. It's been a great journey, and I want to continue to see, if I could reach for the stars where I first set off to achieve that. It's humbling to know how my father started, as you alluded to earlier. I mean, what he undertook was just unbelievable, to leave a country and come to a new country and succeed and provide me with an opportunity. Like, America provided him with an opportunity, it still provides me with an opportunity, but my father, and mother provided me with an opportunity for me to, achieve my dreams, to accomplish them, to go to law school, to pursue soccer. I mean, things that, they as kids probably weren't able to do. So it instills this sense of urgency in me to do the same thing for my kids. I think sometimes what your parents do for you, you want to then do for your kids. Sometimes it's the opposite, right? Sometimes you don't want to do what, maybe they're worse off for it. Maybe, I should let them find their own way. But I want to, if I could do half as much for my kids as my parents did for me, that's what I want to do. So I dedicate a lot of my energy and get a lot of my will to work and show up at work based on that. Like, let me provide for my family and do what I can.
That's awesome, man. And listening to you talk about your parents, and seeing how you were inspired by them, how you grew up, I think that has a lot to do with your success these days as well, because I think a lot of people don't achieve success or don't really look for a better life because of cycles that they go through and what they see every day at home, and parents that are not pushing them, parents that are paying attention to other things, and it's amazing to see, like, that you had parents that were there for you since the beginning. My wife, she's no longer there, but she was working at DYS with a program where she works with like young children that have these problems at homes. Like she tries to help them break cycles. Like it's not normal to see your dad should be like beating up your mom or something like that, or it's not normal for these things to happen. And just to hear a story where parents took responsibility and pushed their kids and did what they did, like for you, it's an amazing thing. That's what we strive for. Alex and I talk about this all the time, because kids, they absorb, like you saw what your parents went through, your dad and fighting, and you just didn't like steer away. You just, you kept going in the right direction, and you took school seriously, and you took, you try to be as good as a father as your dad was to you, and that's what your children are learning from you. They're learning that you should work hard like you do. They're learning that you should be, a good husband like you are. And they learn that, and that's what's going to bring them success in their own lives whenever they married and have kids of their own. So very, very inspiring, very inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've known in all these 8 years that we've been working together, and I'm looking for this in many different people, because I think there's a similarity in people who are moving forward and people who are achieving some sort of success. There's a lot of reflecting that happens, right? I'm sure you stop at times, or sometimes you get to a client, you get to another attorney's office a little early, and you're in your car, and you have 10-15 minutes, and you're just like, you think. Because a lot of people don't actually allow themselves the time to, I'm gonna take a day off. I'm gonna think about where I'm going. Again, direction more important than speed, right? And I've known you to be that type of person who, okay, I'm here today, and I've accomplished what I've had today, and I can look back, and I can see all the steps necessary to get me to where I am. But you're also contemplating what next, like 5 or 10 years. How much do you plan? Like, are you planning for 20 or 30 years from now, or are you planning for 5 years from now, knowing that what you're doing has been right because it's brought you here, and it's a good place? I mean, there's totally different measures to success. One of the ones that I use is, are you sleeping well at night? Do you sleep all night? When you put your head on your pillow, do you sleep all night? And I think that's one of the most important measures of success is, none of us are where we want to be. We all are striving to be somewhere farther and further and higher and all of that. But today, if you isolate tomorrow and yesterday, are you happy today? Are you successful today? In your case, for instance, is how do you plan life? Do you plan 2 or 3 years at a time, 5 years at a time, 10 years?
Yeah, great question, because I am a person that believes in planning, and I've had guests on my podcast that talk about everything being fortuitous and things just happening, and I'm not of the belief of that, but I understand that that's some people's perception of and what they think. I reflect and I plan constantly because I don't want to regress, right? And I completely agree with you. Success, sleeping at night, sleeping well at night because you're doing good things is important. And I also believe that there should never be a destination, that we should always be pushing forward. I tend to plan. I probably plan too much, right? But it's better than, I think, not having a plan. I wouldn't feel comfortable. So I try to make small goals, short-term goals in a lot of different areas of my life with long-term goals in mind. Because like you said, it's the direction, not the pace. I don't care how long it takes me. I just know I want to get here. And if you're not reflecting, you're going to repeat mistakes. And if you repeat mistakes, you're going to take 2 steps back instead of. And it's okay to fall, stumble, go backwards, because sometimes you have to learn. Yeah. Sometimes you have to make a mistake twice. If you make the same mistake 3 times, then you really have to reevaluate what's going on. And I think you can't do that without reflecting. Hey, what have I done? What's worked for me? And again, these podcasts, the Lighthouse Podcast, the Boa Life Podcast, you get to hear breadth of experience and advice from a lot of people. It's like, don't reinvent the wheel. This stuff works. Just do it.
Clues, right?
Right. So, you talk about people that have plans, a lot of small plans they can achieve so they can, be proud of themselves. And then long-term plans so that you can work towards something. I happen to be a person of faith. I don't get into it that much because, it's for me and it's my personal experience. And some people like to share that and others don't. And however people are with whatever they believe is their business. And again, lucky. Dan said, I was lucky to have the parents I have. Your kids and my kids, they're lucky to have us. I think knowing you guys and your wives, fairly well, I think our kids are very lucky to be in the position they have. And you got to have a little luck in life, right? Because, so I'm very happy, and I was very lucky to have the parents I have had, and I think my kids are pretty lucky to have the parents, especially my wife. They're very lucky to have her. She's phenomenal. Best partner I could have ever, business, friendship, and best partnership I could have ever had is my wife. My wife is my rock. She is the only person that can keep me, keep me in line, always expects the best of me, wants me to improve. I don't always like that, but that's her role and it's important, and I love and admire her for being that way, strong enough to rein in what is probably a bull. But I went off on a tangent there. But goals, setting goals with faith, it's easy to set a goal because the goal is unachievable, right? My goal in my faith is to be the best person I can be, and to treat people the way I want to be treated, and to be humble and to be forgiving, turn the other cheek. And these are things that I fail miserably at over and over again. And I constantly try to be a person of integrity and a good friend and a good person. And there's no perfect, There's just trying to be that. So until the day I die, I'm going to be trying to be a better human being. And I'm going to be a shitty person sometimes. And it's okay because I'm not perfect. But I'm going to make sure that no matter where life takes me, that I always try to stay grounded and say, Steven, you're just a guy. Be grateful, be humble, be nice to people. Try to bring everybody up with you if you're going up, and if you're going down, maybe someone will reach down and grab you. So,
and what are in your? Share with us tangible goals. What are some of your goals for the future? You're a successful attorney in town. Great family. You're a home cat. You're probably never gonna leave this area. You're gonna die here.
You know me. I got roots. I want to go around. I just want a home base.
And before you answer that, I just wanted to. This came to mind when you were talking about that. We read a lot, and one of my favorite writers, Napoleon Hill. So I'm gonna say this of two ways of how people used to look at it before, like back in the days, and how of like maybe a millennial would understand, right? Talking about goals and whatnot. Well, Napoleon Hill would always say this: whatever your mind can conceive, the body can achieve. You can achieve. Like if you can think of something. So now in a millennial way of looking at it, if something came to your mind, if you could see that picture, if something is in your mind that already exists, all you have to do is download it, right? So that downloading part of it is what a lot of people don't want to do. You got to do the work, right?
Right.
So if you want to be a successful lawyer, you got to go to school, you got to study a lot. That's the downloading part of it. But you can picture that in your mind, like, I want to be a successful lawyer at one point and do what I have to do. But the downloading part of it is go through the hard work. Same thing with like Napoleon Hill, like whatever the mind can conceive, you can achieve, but you got to do the work. A lot of people are not ready to do the work. Yeah. That's how the 80-20 rule always happens, and we can see that you're part of the 20. So I just wanted to put that on there because it's so important, like the journey. I saw a video the other day. I even posted this video. the man who loves the journey, he is a lot more successful than the man who loves the destination. Because when you fall in love with the journey and you take one day at a time and you do the best you can, knowing that you're a better Steve than yesterday's Steve, goals just happen.
Yeah.
You know, like you come through adversity, you do things as a byproduct of the good that you're doing. It's part of the recipe. So with all of that being said,
Yeah, enjoy
goals.
and I love the author I like. I mean, growth mindset. Enjoy the process, but to touch upon your question on what are my goals, right? What am I trying to achieve? So I think that we should be cognizant of what we're good at, and have some self-awareness and try to improve in the things we're not good at. So I'm always trying to grow, right? Trying to learn, read books, learn from other people, have masterminds, have these group of people that I can learn from. So I'm trying to always get better. So that's one thing. Continue to progress. One is I believe one of the gifts I was given is that I like to have conversations. I don't know if I'm good at it or not, but I enjoy listening to people. I want to hear their stories, and then I want to be a part of the discussion. So one of my goals is to use my voice. I think that, we don't have many superpowers in life, right? We're not superheroes, but I do think like the spoken word, like speaking things into existence, as you said earlier. I think that our words are powerful and they can make a difference in the world. So I want to make sure that I have that I'm able to do that in whatever medium I can, whether it's podcasting, at work with my clients, at home with my children, with my wife, my friends. So I want to do that. And then I want to just improve my health. So I want to make sure that, I set goals. I try to do, get into agreements with friends to maybe, do some kind of race in the future, play golf. I want financial independence. So I've been, I set goals. I've been making moves to try to make sure that I can secure my future and my children's future by making good decisions. And I've learned these things through reading, through watching other people, saving, spending less than I make, right? Investing money so that my money can make money for me, not trading in my time for money, right? It's finding other ways to do it. I think that people worry too much about money and all these other things and realize that the most important thing that we have is our time. We're here for a limited amount of time. We have a limited amount of time with the people we love, our friends, to do things like this, to play golf. So I think we give it up way too easy. We have to cherish it and make sure that, and I do that as well. So I'm trying to figure out how I can maximize my time to do the things that I love to do. So that's a goal, to make sure that I'm balancing my life. When I do the Boa podcast and I have guests on, and I'm trying to learn to have a better life myself. I don't want a great life. I don't want an unbelievable life. Like, that's not what I want, which is interesting. You had mentioned earlier, this book won't be, it's be happy with some of the things we already have. Sometimes we're so worried about all these other things that we don't realize we already have happiness here. And life's not always about being happy. We're going to be met with tragedies and we're going to have battles. We're going to lose jobs. We're going to lose clients or money. So it's
happening every day, everywhere.
Yeah. Get perspective. And these conversations do that. You share and you share experiences, and you see people. It's not always, you were once in Brazil with one bathroom in a small home, and now I'm not going to share with the audience, but your life is
1.5 bathroom now.
1.5.
Yeah, you're not popping bottles of Dom just yet. But even when that day does come, and for you it will come, because you guys are driven and you're going to succeed and do well. But that's not going to make you happy. I think people sometimes want to get to a destination and they get there and they realize, this is what I've been working for.
Right.
The things that make you happy in life are free, and don't take them for granted. So I'm going to try to stay humble and not take things for granted. Don't get too big for my own bridges, and just because I've achieved some successes, there's people with more money, more success out there. Am I happy in my own skin? Am I doing what I can as a father, as a friend, as a husband? And if I'm working to be better, then that's my goal. I'm heading in the right direction.
Yeah. There's Tony Robbins has probably my best definition of what success is, which is to live life in your own terms, or to live life how you designed it. But the key word there is how you designed it. So it won't just happen out of nothing. You have to design a life. You have to envision what a good life is, and then work towards it to finally be able to get there. And, through the many avenues that you're doing it, with work, and you can generate money that way, but also investing some of that money so that money can generate money so you don't have to work as hard in the future. And then, through being in a good place with your mental health and also physical health, and just so the way that you designed it, you can finally live in it. And then as the years go by, you just start maximizing what that idea of design is. But I like the keyword design in it. I like, in your own terms, but the terms that you designed.
Be the author of your own story, or the pilot in your journey. These are all, I think you said the words are important, and how, you perceive everything, and what you create, what you manifest for yourself. So, I'm enjoying the ride and the process. And when you look back, it's amazing, the journey that already has happened. But I mean, there's so much more in my life.
Oh, in your early 40s, so sky's the limit.
Yeah, the sky is the limit. But, I always try to keep in mind, like I said, the time is precious, it's short. So, enjoy the present. That's another thing too. It's, as a planner, as someone that constantly has setting goals and trying to achieve dreams, my plans, sometimes I forget the present, to be present. Another thing, my wife always reins me in. I'll be at home at dinner or on the phone, Is that work? No. It's because I'm at work all day. When I get home, I want to, what's going on in the world? Yeah. We're in a war? what are you talking about? What happened? But it's what do I cherish? I cherish my family. So be present. There's enough distractions in life. So, but that's a constant battle. Like I said again, that's why these things are so important. And we take it for granted because we have a lot of education. We read. We do. A lot of people don't have a blueprint. We have all these blueprints. All this information we're gathering and we're processing. Some people don't have it. That's why, as much as we can put out there for people to learn from.
Yeah.
We take it for granted a lot.
With the internet these days, you can have access basically to pretty much anything.
But then you gotta realize which of it is BS and what's worthwhile. I don't remember who said this, but it was funny. Looking at martial arts, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? So there was a time before MMA was popular, where there was a lot of karate, this, that, the other thing. Everybody had a philosophy on what was the best form of fighting, right? Just like now, politicians, everybody has an opinion, right? But with fighting, there's an answer. You can say karate and you could say taekwondo is, and then I'm going to say no, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But then the styles merge, the styles come together, and then you find out who's full of what and who's not. A lot of times in life, you don't have that. I've been fortunate enough to have family members who have succeeded, and I got to see what it took. Where they faltered and where they succeeded. Hard work, perseverance, positive attitude. So I have the tools that I need, and I just, again, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to
duplicate.
Exactly. Just do. Like Novocaine, it'll work eventually. So I was lucky in that regard, and I'm at this point smart enough or experienced enough that I can siphon through a lot of the BS. But internet provides a lot of information, but some of it might be counterintuitive or counterproductive, right? Because it's that you might listen to the guy that says, karate, cryptocurrencies, some of them are worth it in long-term investments. Some of them you're going to lose your shirt, but you listen to the wrong guy. So the
Are you talking about Justin?
I love Justin. Justin got me into cryptocurrency, so I only get mad at him 20 years from now.
He better be right, because he got me into it as
I
well.
only invest what I'm willing to lose in crypto. So whatever you've learned from this podcast, if you invest in crypto, make sure it's only what you're willing to lose. But again, all these sources of information can help you or they can hurt you. Social media, prime example. Is it helping us as a society? Maybe it's hurting us. I don't know. I think anything in life in moderation is fine. And and everything, all information is positive, but it could also be negative. So you have a personal responsibility to figure it all out, you know?
Oh, you gotta do your leg of the work as well.
Right.
Go out there, get whatever information you want, but come back home and process it, and
Right.
then you know, put it on the scale and see what makes sense.
Right.
Well, my friend, we would love to have you here for the whole day, but we know you have clients to go see. Thank you so much for being here with us. A very inspiring story. Of course, this is not the first time we hear about it. We get to hear about it more and more every time we go see you for a closing or a client. We would like to wish you much success, which you already have a lot of, but you know, health, peace, at home, which are the things that you continually pursue. And the things that you value. We love the partnership that we have, and then being able to work with clients, because every opportunity that we have to talk to you, we have an opportunity to learn something new, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the time that you spend with our clients, and of course we are always looking forward to spending some time outside of work, where we don't have to talk about transactions all the time. So a golfing trip is on the horizon. We just got to talk to your wife and organize the scheduling.
Talk to the boss. Talk to the boss.
Well, thank you guys very much for having me on. Obviously, our stories and our journeys are intertwined. I've loved watching you guys from where you started. I mean, I remember when Daniel was a client of mine, and now to see you be, basically a business partner in some sense, and to watch you guys grow to where you are and where you're going to go, it's been fun to do, and I can't wait to watch the next 20 years of success, and hopefully I'll be a part of it, and you'll be a part of my success. Thank you guys.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Steven. We learned a lot, and hopefully some of the audience can be inspired by your story. That is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. You should really check out, I'm going to ask Justin to put in the information for his podcast, the Boa Life Podcast. You learn a lot from that podcast as well. And we'll see you guys next time with some great content. Once again, the Lighthouse Podcast.
And living and breathing.
Living and breathing. La vida boa. Thank